Welcome to your Monday motivational video. Here are a few popular advices you should never follow. 1. Keeping your achievements to yourself because of the evil eye. You know, I've always found it fascinating how we humans can be so quick to buy into these little superstitions and old wives' tales. Take the whole evil eye thing, for example. Apparently, if you dare to share your accomplishments with the world, you're just asking for trouble. The evil eye is going to swoop in and snatch away all your hard-earned success, leaving you back at square one. Or so they say anyway. But let me ask you this. Have you ever actually seen the evil eye in action? I certainly haven't. And trust me, I have been keeping a close eye out, pun intended. It's almost as if this whole evil eye business is just a convenient excuse for us to play it safe and keep our achievements to ourselves. After all, who wants to risk the wrath of some mysterious, all-seeing force, right? Well, my fellow Stoics, I'm here to tell you that it's time to throw that superstitious nonsense out the window. The Stoics had a very different take on this whole hiding your light under a bushel business, and I think it's high time we take a page out of their playbook. As Seneca so eloquently put it, it is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. In other words, if we let fear and superstition hold us back, we'll never reach the heights of greatness that we're truly capable of. Epictetus, another wise Stoic, reminds us that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. By proudly displaying our accomplishments, we're not only inspiring others, but we're also demonstrating our own resilience and strength of character. I know what you're thinking. But what about the evil eye? Isn't that a real thing? Well, my friends, the Stoics would tell you that the evil eye is nothing more than a figment of our own imagination. As Marcus Aurelius said, the universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. In other words, if we focus on the negative and let our fears control us, that's exactly what will happen. Instead, we should embrace the positive and celebrate our achievements. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Every time we accomplish something, we're taking another step towards our goals. And that's something to be proud of. So the next time someone tries to rain on your parade and tells you to keep your achievements to yourself, remember the wise words of Cicero. A life without the pursuit of knowledge is a life not worth living. Embrace your successes, share them with the world, and let your light shine bright. After all, as Heraclitus reminds us, the only constant in life is change. And the more we celebrate our growth and progress, the more we'll inspire others to do the same. 2. Think realistically. I've always found it fascinating how we humans can be such a fickle bunch when it comes to our thinking. One minute, we're all about that positive mindset and visualizing our success, and the next, we're drowning in a sea of self-doubt and negativity. It's like we've got this internal tug-of-war going on, and we just can't seem to find the right balance. But let's be real here, folks. Life isn't all rainbows and unicorns, no matter how hard we try to convince ourselves otherwise. Sometimes it's downright messy, complicated, and well, a little bit crappy. And you know what? That's okay. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for a little optimism now and then. But let's not kid ourselves. That whole think positively and the universe will provide thing is about as reliable as a chocolate teapot. Sure, it might work for some people, but for the rest of us, it's just a recipe for disappointment and disillusionment. As the ancient Greek philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In other words, it's not about denying the reality of our circumstances, but rather, it's about how we choose to respond to them. And the Stoics had a pretty unique take on this whole realistic thinking thing. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, believed that the key to a fulfilling life was to align our desires with what is within our control. In other words, Instead of wasting our energy on things we can't control, we should focus on the things we can, like our own thoughts, actions, and reactions. Now, I hear you asking, but what about all those motivational speakers and self-help gurus who tell us to dream big and never give up? Well, my friends, the Stoics would say that while those messages can be inspiring, they're not always the most practical or realistic. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Confucius once said, "Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's own ignorance." In other words, it's not about denying the reality of our circumstances, but rather, it's about recognizing that we don't have all the answers, and that's okay. So the next time someone tells you to think positively or visualize your success, remember the wise words of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. In other words, it's not enough to just think about being realistic. We have to actually live it. By embracing a more Stoic approach to our thinking, we can learn to navigate the ups and downs of life with a greater sense of clarity, resilience, and inner peace. After all, as the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle once said, "The more you know, the more you realize you don't know." So, let's ditch the unrealistic expectations and embrace a more grounded Stoic approach to our thinking. Who knows? It might just be the key to unlocking our true potential and living our best lives. 3. You need to figure out what you're doing and plan your whole life. Figuring out what you're doing and planning your whole life is like the holy grail of self-help wisdom, right? Just sit down, map out your entire future, and voila, instant success and fulfillment. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Well, my friends, if you're anything like me, that's about as realistic as a unicorn riding a flying saucer. I mean, let's be honest. How many of us can truly say we have our lives planned out to the last detail? Raise your hand if you knew exactly what you were going to be doing 10, 20, or 30 years from now when you were just starting out. Anyone? Bueller? Yeah, that's what I thought. The truth is, life has a way of throwing us curveballs when we least expect it. One minute, we're on the fast track to our dream job, and the next, we're wondering if we should just throw in the towel and become professional cat herders. It's enough to make even the most meticulous planner want to throw their to-do list out the window and just wing it. But you know what the Stoics would say about all this? They'd probably tell us to take a deep breath, relax, and embrace the journey. As the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus once said, "The only constant in life is change." In other words, trying to plan out every single step of our lives is about as futile as trying to catch the wind in a net. Instead, the Stoics believed that we should focus on what's within our control, our thoughts, our actions, and our reactions to the circumstances we find ourselves in. As the Roman emperor and Stoic thinker Marcus Aurelius put it, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." But what about all those successful people who had their whole lives mapped out from the get-go? Well, my friends, the Stoics would argue that even the most meticulously planned lives are subject to the whims of fate. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." In other words, it's not about having the entire journey mapped out from the start. It's about taking that first step and being open to the twists and turns that come our way. So the next time someone tries to tell you that you need to have your whole life figured out, remember the wise words of the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates. "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." In other words, it's not about having all the answers. It's about embracing the uncertainty and being willing to adapt and grow as we go. By adopting a more Stoic approach to life planning, we can learn to let go of the need for control and embrace the journey. After all, as the ancient Roman philosopher Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." So, let's ditch the rigid life plans and embrace the unpredictable beauty of the journey. Who knows where it might take us, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be one heck of a ride. 4. Love is hard work. Love, the great equalizer, the universal language, the thing that makes the world go round. Or at least that's what they tell us, right? I mean, how many times have you heard someone say, love is hard work, or relationships take a lot of effort? It's like they're trying to scare us away from the whole idea of love, as if it's some kind of mythical beast that's just waiting to devour us whole. But you know what I say? Pish posh. If love is so darn hard, then why do we keep chasing after it like a bunch of lovesick puppies? I mean, seriously, have these people ever actually been in a real, honest-to-goodness relationship? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like they're just trying to rain on our parade. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that love is all rainbows and unicorns. It can be messy, complicated, and downright exhausting at times. But you know what? That's okay. In fact, the Stoics would argue that it's not only okay, but it's actually essential to the growth and development of our relationships. As the ancient Greek philosopher Diogenes once said, "The foundation of every state is the education of its youth." In other words, it's not about denying the challenges of love, but rather, it's about how we choose to respond to them. The Stoics believed that the key to a fulfilling relationship was to focus on what's within our control, our own thoughts, actions, and reactions. As the ancient Roman philosopher Zeno of Citium put it, well-being is realized by small steps, but is truly no small thing. But what about all those couples who seem to have it all figured out? Well, my friends, the Stoics would say that even the most seemingly perfect relationships have their fair share of challenges. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." In other words, it's not about having the entire relationship mapped out from the start. It's about being present, adaptable, and willing to roll with the punches. So, the next time someone tries to tell you that love is hard work, remember the wise words of the ancient Greek philosopher Diogenes. The foundation of every state is the education of its youth. In other words, it's not about listening to the naysayers. It's about trusting your own experiences and being willing to put in the effort to make your relationships thrive. By embracing a more stoic approach to love, we can learn to navigate the ups and downs of our relationships with a greater sense of clarity, resilience, and inner peace. After all, as the ancient Indian philosopher Patanjali once said, "When you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations, your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world." So let's ditch the fairy tale expectations and embrace the challenges of love. Who knows? It might just be the key to unlocking our true potential and living our best lives. 5. You need to take time to find yourself. You know, I've always found it fascinating how we humans can be so obsessed with this idea of finding ourselves. It's like we've got this notion that there's this perfect, idealized version of ourselves out there just waiting to be discovered, and all we have to do is go on some grand, soul-searching adventure to uncover it. But let me ask you this. How many of us have actually managed to find ourselves and then just, stayed that way? Raise your hand if you've never had to go through the whole process of refinding yourself at least a dozen times. Anyone? Susan? Yeah, that's what I thought. It's almost as if we've got this deep-seated belief that there's this one true version of ourselves that we're just destined to uncover. Like we're all on some kind of cosmic scavenger hunt. And heaven forbid we actually find something that doesn't quite fit the mold. We've got to keep searching, keep exploring, keep trying on different identities like they're a new pair of shoes, until we finally land on the one that feels just right. It's like we're all a bunch of sartorial shapeshifters, constantly reinventing ourselves in the hopes of finding that elusive, perfect fit. And let's not forget the endless stream of self-help gurus and motivational speakers who are more than happy to sell us the latest and greatest find-yourself formula, as if it's some kind of magical elixir that's going to solve all our problems. But you know what the Stoics would say about all this? They'd probably tell us to take a deep breath, relax, and embrace the journey. After all, as the ancient Chinese philosopher Chuang Tzu once said, "The perfect person has no self, the spiritual person has no achievement, the sage has no name." In other words, trying to pin down our true selves is about as futile as trying to catch the wind in a net. It's like trying to hold on to water. the more you try to grasp it, the more it slips through your fingers. As the ancient Greek philosopher Xenophon put it, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. In other words, it's not about denying the challenges of self-discovery, but rather, it's about how we choose to respond to them. The Stoics believed that the key to a fulfilling life was to focus on what's within our control, our own thoughts, actions, and reactions. As the ancient Indian philosopher Chanakya once said, the lack of desire is the highest form of wealth. But what about all those self-help gurus and motivational speakers who tell us to find our true selves and live our best lives? Well, my friends, the Stoics would say that while those messages can be inspiring, they're not always the most practical or realistic. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Mencius once said, "The great man is he who does not lose his child's heart." In other words, it's not about having all the answers. It's about being open to the journey of self-discovery and embracing the twists and turns that come our way. So, the next time someone tells you that you need to take time to find yourself, remember the wise words of the ancient Roman philosopher Seneca. It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult. In other words, it's not about following a prescribed path. It's about trusting your own experiences and being willing to learn and grow as you go. By embracing a more stoic approach to self-discovery, we can learn to navigate the ups and downs of our personal journeys with a greater sense of clarity, resilience, and inner peace. After all, as the ancient Greek philosopher Epictetus once said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So, let's ditch the idea of finding ourselves and embrace the ever-evolving, ever-changing nature of our true selves. Who knows? It might just be the key to unlocking our true potential and living our best lives. 6. Therapy is only for traumatized people. The age-old stigma surrounding therapy. It's like a stubborn stain that just won't come out no matter how hard we scrub. I mean, seriously, who decided that therapy is only for the traumatized or the mentally unstable? It's like we've got this idea that if you're not curled up in the fetal position, rocking back and forth, then you've got no business stepping foot in a therapist's office. But let me tell you, my friends, that's about as reliable as a screen door on a submarine. It's almost as if we've got this deep-seated belief that mental health is this fragile, delicate thing that can only be handled by the experts. You know, the ones who've got the fancy degrees and the well-worn couch cushions. And heaven forbid we actually admit that we might be struggling with something, even if it's just a case of the occasional existential crisis, or a mild case of the "I don't know what I am doing with my life" blues. Nope. We've got to put on our brave faces, put our shoulders back, and power through it, because that's what strong people do, right? Well, let me tell you, the Stoics would have a thing or two to say about that kind of thinking. They'd probably tell us to take a deep breath, relax, and embrace our humanity. Because let's be real, we're all a little bit messy, a little bit complicated, and a whole lot of work in progress. And you know what? That's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's essential to our growth and development as human beings. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Chuang Tzu once said, "The perfect person has no self. The spiritual person has no achievement. The sage has no name." In other words, it's not about denying our struggles or pretending that everything is fine and dandy. It's about embracing our humanity and being willing to seek out the support we need. The Stoics believed that the key to a fulfilling life was to focus on what's within our control, our own thoughts, actions, and reactions. As the ancient Indian philosopher Shankara put it, "The highest truth is that there is no truth, for truth is ever-changing." But what about the stigma? Isn't therapy just for the crazy people? Well, my friends, the Stoics would say that this kind of thinking is about as outdated as a rotary phone. As the ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus once said, "The greatest wealth is to live content with little." In other words, it's not about denying our struggles or pretending that everything is fine. It's about being honest with ourselves and seeking out the support we need to thrive. So the next time someone tries to tell you that therapy is only for the traumatized, Remember the wise words of the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. In other words, it's not about fitting into some narrow, predetermined mold. It's about embracing our unique experiences and being willing to do the work to improve our mental well-being. By embracing a more stoic approach to mental health, we can learn to navigate the ups and downs of life with a greater sense of clarity, resilience, and inner peace. After all, as the ancient Roman philosopher Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." So, let's ditch the stigma and embrace the power of therapy. Who knows? It might just be the key to unlocking our true potential and living our best lives. 7. Treat others how you want to be treated. Treating others how you want to be treated is like the golden rule of human interaction, right? I mean, who doesn't love the idea of a world where everyone is just walking around, treating each other with the utmost kindness and respect? It's like a feel-good Hallmark movie come to life. But let me ask you this. How's that working out for everyone? Are we all living in perfect harmony, basking in the glow of our mutual understanding and compassion? Somehow I doubt it. It's almost as if we've got this deeply ingrained belief that there's this one universal way to treat others that's going to work for everyone, no matter who they are or what they're going through. It's like we've got this mental checklist of acceptable behaviors and attitudes, and if someone doesn't fit neatly into that little box, well, then they must be doing something wrong. But let's be real. We're all a little bit different, a little bit quirky, and a whole lot of work in progress. And trying to force everyone into the same mold is about as effective as trying to herd cats while wearing oven mitts. And you know what the Stoics would say about all this? They'd probably tell us to take a deep breath, relax, and embrace the complexity of human relationships. After all, as the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." In other words, it's not about trying to impose our own will on others, but rather, it's about being willing to take that first step towards understanding and connection. As the ancient Indian philosopher Ramana Maharshi put it, "The self is not something that can be known, but is that by which all else is known." In other words, it's not about denying the challenges of interpersonal relationships, but rather, it's about focusing on what's within our control, our own thoughts, actions, and reactions. The Stoics believed that the key to a fulfilling life was to cultivate a sense of empathy and understanding towards others. As the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle once said, "Educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all." In other words, it's not about imposing our own expectations or assumptions onto others, but rather, it's about being open to their unique perspectives and experiences. But what about the golden rule? Isn't that the way to go? Well, my friends, the Stoics would say that while the sentiment is admirable, the reality is a little more complicated. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Confucius once said, "The superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions." In other words, it's not just about the actions we take, but the underlying intention and understanding that drives them. So the next time someone tries to tell you that you should treat others how you want to be treated, remember the wise words of the ancient Indian philosopher Swami Vivekananda. The greatest religion is to be true to your own nature. In other words, it's not about imposing our own preferences or expectations onto others, but rather, it's about being willing to adapt and grow alongside them. By embracing a more stoic approach to our relationships, we can learn to navigate the ups and downs of human interaction with a greater sense of clarity, resilience, and inner peace. After all, as the ancient Greek philosopher Plato once said, "The measure of a man is what he does with power." So, let's ditch the one-size-fits-all approach and embrace the complexity of human relationships. Who knows? It might just be the key to unlocking our true potential and living our best lives. 8. Chill and easygoing people are more likable. Are the chill and easygoing folks really the ones who have the upper hand when it comes to being likable? It's a question that's been pondered by philosophers, social scientists, and your average Joe at the local watering hole for ages? And let me tell you, the answer is about as clear as a glass of murky pond water. On one hand, you've got the smooth operators, the ones who can waltz into a room, crack a witty one-liner, and have everyone eating out of the palm of their hand. They're the ones who can sip their drink with an air of nonchalance, while the rest of us are sweating bullets, trying to come up with the perfect conversation starter. And let's be honest, there's something undeniably charming about that whole cool, calm, and collected vibe. But then, you've got the passionate, enthusiastic types, the ones who wear their hearts on their sleeves and aren't afraid to let their emotions show. They're the ones who get fired up about their hobbies, their work, or the latest episode of their favorite TV show. And you know what? Sometimes, a little bit of that infectious energy can be just as captivating as the whole chill and easygoing thing. I know what you're thinking, but the Stoics always preached about the virtues of moderation and self-control, and you'd be absolutely right. As the ancient Greek philosopher Plato once said, "The measure of a man is what he does with power." But here's the thing. Sometimes a little bit of passion and intensity can be a good thing. After all, as the Chinese philosopher Confucius once observed, the superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions. And you know what? He might just have a point. Because let's be honest, the truly likable people aren't the ones who are constantly trying to be the center of attention, but the ones who are genuinely engaged and interested in what's going on around them. So, what's the secret to being the kind of person that everyone wants to be around? It's all about finding the right balance between chill and intensity, between confidence and humility. Because let's face it, the people who are truly captivating aren't the ones who are always trying to be the life of the party, but the ones who are genuinely passionate about what they do. Think about it. When you're around someone who's constantly trying to one-up everyone, it can be exhausting, right? But when you're with someone who's genuinely excited about their work, or who has a deep, abiding passion for a particular hobby, it's like a breath of fresh air. Because at the end of the day, what we really want is to be around people who are authentic and genuine, not just a bunch of cool, aloof dudes. As the ancient Indian philosopher Patanjali once said, when you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world. And you know what? That's the kind of person we all want to be around. Someone who's not constantly trying to prove their worth, but who's simply present and engaged in the moment. So, the next time you're feeling the urge to be the chill and easygoing person, remember that sometimes a little bit of passion and enthusiasm can go a long way. Because at the end of the day, what we really want is to be around people who are genuine, authentic, and truly engaged with the world around them. And that, my friends, is the true secret to being likable. 9. Find and marry a rich partner. The age-old pursuit of finding a partner who can provide the finer things in life. A sprawling mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, and a closet full of designer duds. It's the kind of advice that's been whispered in the ears of starry-eyed romantics and gold-digging opportunists alike, like some sort of secret code to unlocking the keys to the kingdom. But let me tell you, my friends, this is one piece of wisdom that you should take with a hefty grain of salt and maybe a shot of tequila for good measure. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you heard someone say, "You know, the secret to a truly fulfilling relationship is finding someone who can buy you all the material possessions your heart desires"? Exactly. It's the kind of advice that sounds great on the surface, like a surefire way to live happily ever after in a palace made of solid gold. But when you really dig into it, it's about as hollow and empty as a Kardashian's Instagram feed. Because let's be real, the truly rich people in this world aren't the ones with the biggest bank accounts or the flashiest toys. They're the ones who have found a way to cultivate genuine, meaningful connections with others. They're the ones who understand that true wealth isn't measured in dollars and cents, but in the depth of your relationships and the richness of your experiences. And they're the ones who know that the key to a fulfilling life isn't about chasing after the latest and greatest material possessions, but about finding someone who sees you for who you truly are, and who is willing to embark on the journey of life by your side. But what about the Stoics? Didn't they preach the virtues of self-sufficiency and independence? And you'd be absolutely right. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." But here's the thing. When it comes to matters of the heart, the Stoics might just have a thing or two to teach us about the importance of looking beyond the material. After all, as the ancient Indian philosopher Chanakya once observed, the true measure of a man is how he treats someone who can do him absolutely no good. And you know what? That's the kind of mindset we should be cultivating when it comes to finding a partner. Because let's face it, the truly fulfilling relationships aren't the ones that are built on a foundation of wealth and status, but the ones that are rooted in mutual respect, understanding, and a genuine appreciation for each other's unique qualities. So, what's the secret to finding a partner who truly enriches your life, rather than just your bank account? It's all about shifting your focus from the superficial to the truly meaningful. Because let's be honest, the people who are truly captivating aren't the ones who are constantly flaunting their wealth, but the ones who have a deep, abiding passion for life and a genuine interest in the world around them. Think about it. When you're around someone who's constantly trying to impress you with their material possessions, it can be exhausting, right? But when you're with someone who's genuinely curious about your interests, who listens intently to your stories, and who shares your sense of wonder and adventure, it's like a breath of fresh air. Because at the end of the day, what we really want is to be with someone who sees us for who we truly are, not just a walking, talking dollar sign. As the ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus once said, "The greatest wealth is to live content with little." And you know what? He might just have a point. Because let's face it, the truly rich people in this world aren't the ones who have the biggest bank accounts, but the ones who have found a way to cultivate a deep, abiding sense of inner peace and contentment. So, the next time you're tempted to chase after the latest and greatest material possessions, remember that true wealth isn't measured in dollars and cents, but in the depth of your relationships and the richness of your experiences. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is finding someone who sees you for who you truly are, and who is willing to embark on the journey of life by your side. And that, my friends, is the true secret to a fulfilling and meaningful partnership. 10. Time will heal everything. The age-old saying that's been passed down through the generations like a worn-out pair of grandma's slippers. Time heals all wounds. It's the kind of advice that's been doled out to the heartbroken, the grieving, and the downright despondent, like a magical elixir that's supposed to make all our troubles disappear. But let me tell you, my friends, this is one piece of wisdom that's about as reliable as a politician's campaign promise. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you heard someone say, "You know, the secret to getting over that messy breakup, losing your job, watching your favorite TV show get canceled, is to just sit back, relax, and let good old Father Time work his magic"? Exactly. It's the kind of advice that sounds great in theory, like a surefire way to wave goodbye to all your problems and sail off into the sunset. But when you really dig into it, it's about as useful as a chocolate teapot. Because let's be real, the world is a messy, complicated place, and sometimes the wounds we sustain just don't heal as neatly as we'd like them to. Whether it's the loss of a loved one, the end of a cherished relationship, or the crushing disappointment of a shattered dream, there are some things in life that can't be fixed with a simple prescription of time and patience. And that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's a fundamental part of the human experience. But what about the Stoics? Didn't they preach the virtues of resilience and self-control? And you'd be absolutely right. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Confucius once said, "It does not matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop." But here's the thing. When it comes to the messier, more emotional aspects of life, the Stoics might just have a thing or two to teach us about the importance of acknowledging our pain, rather than trying to sweep it under the rug. After all, as the ancient Greek philosopher Plato once observed, the measure of a man is what he does with power. And you know what? That's the kind of mindset we should be cultivating when it comes to dealing with the challenges life throws our way. Because let's face it, the truly resilient people aren't the ones who pretend that everything is fine, but the ones who have the courage to confront their pain head-on and to find ways to grow and evolve in the face of adversity. So, what's the secret to navigating the ups and downs of life without succumbing to the false promise of time heals all wounds? It's all about shifting your perspective and embracing the messiness of the human experience. Because let's be honest, the people who are truly inspiring aren't the ones who have it all figured out, but the ones who have learned to embrace the uncertainty and the vulnerability that comes with being alive. Think about it. When you're around someone who's constantly trying to project an image of perfection, it can be exhausting, right? But when you're with someone who's willing to be open and honest about their struggles, who's not afraid to let their guard down and show their true emotions, it's like a breath of fresh air. Because at the end of the day, what we really want is to be with someone who sees us for who we truly are, flaws and all, and who is willing to walk alongside us on the journey of life. As the ancient Indian philosopher Patanjali once said, "When you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations, your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world." And you know what? That's the kind of perspective we should be bringing to the challenges we face in life. Because let's face it, the truly resilient people in this world aren't the ones who have it all figured out, but the ones who have learned to embrace the messiness and the uncertainty of the human experience. They're the ones who understand that true growth and transformation can only come from confronting our pain, rather than trying to ignore it or wish it away. And they're the ones who know that the key to a fulfilling life isn't about chasing after some elusive state of healing, but about finding the courage to keep moving forward, one step at a time. So the next time you're tempted to buy into the myth of time heals all wounds, remember that the true path to healing and growth isn't about waiting for the pain to magically disappear, but about embracing it, learning from it, and using it as fuel to propel you forward. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is having the courage to face the challenges life throws our way and to find the strength to keep moving forward, no matter what. 11. You need to be humble. The age-old advice that's been drilled into our heads since the moment we could toddle our way through the world. You need to be humble, my friend. Humility is the key to success, the secret sauce that will propel you to the top. It's the kind of wisdom that's been passed down through the generations like a worn-out pair of hand-me-down sweaters, a surefire way to ensure that you'll never ruffle any feathers or step on anyone's toes. But let me tell you, my friends, this is one piece of advice that's about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Sure, it might look nice, but when the waves start crashing and the water starts pouring in, you're going to wish you had something a little more substantial to keep you afloat. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you heard someone say, "You know, the real reason I'm not where I want to be in life is because I'm just too darn humble. If only I could muster up the courage to puff out my chest and let the world know just how amazing I am, the sky would be the limit." Exactly. It's the kind of advice that sounds great in theory, like a surefire way to live a life of quiet contentment and avoid all the messy business of self-promotion and ego-stroking. But when you really dig into it, it's about as hollow and empty as a politician's campaign promise, all flash and no substance. Because let's be real, the world is a competitive place, and sometimes a little bit of good old-fashioned confidence and self-assurance can go a long way. Whether you're vying for that big promotion at work, trying to land your dream date, or just looking to make your voice heard in a sea of noise, the ability to puff out your chest and showcase your unique talents and abilities can be the difference between success and, well, a whole lot of humble pie. And let's not forget the fact that the truly inspiring people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly apologizing for their own accomplishments. but the ones who have the courage to own their strengths and use them to make a positive impact. But what about the Stoics? Didn't they preach the virtues of modesty and self-control? And you'd be absolutely right. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Confucius once said, "The superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions." But here's the thing. When it comes to navigating the ups and downs of life, the Stoics might just have a thing or two to teach us about the importance of striking the right balance between humility and self-assurance. Once observed, it is better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live an imitation of somebody else's life with perfection. And you know what? That's the kind of mindset we should be cultivating when it comes to our own personal growth and development. Because let's face it, the truly successful people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly groveling at the feet of others, but the ones who have the confidence and self-belief to take bold, decisive action in pursuit of their goals. So, what's the secret to navigating the tricky waters of self-promotion and ego-stroking without becoming a total jerk? It's all about finding the right balance between humility and self-assurance. Because let's be honest, the people who are truly inspiring aren't the ones who are constantly trying to downplay their own accomplishments, but the ones who have the courage to own their strengths and talents and to use them to make a positive impact on the world around them. Think about it. When you're around someone who's constantly apologizing for their own success, it can be exhausting, right? But when you're with someone who's genuinely proud of their achievements, who's not afraid to share their unique perspective and insights, it's like a breath of fresh air. Because at the end of the day, what we really want is to be with people who are confident in their own skin, who aren't afraid to take risks and put themselves out there, and who are willing to use their talents and abilities to make a difference. As the ancient Indian philosopher Bhagavad Gita once said, "It is better to live your own path imperfectly than to live another's life perfectly." And you know what? That's the kind of perspective we should be bringing to our own personal growth and development. Because let's face it, the truly successful people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly trying to please everyone around them, but the ones who have the courage to stay true to themselves, even in the face of adversity. So the next time you're tempted to buy into the myth of, "You need to be humble to succeed," remember that the true path to fulfillment and happiness isn't about constantly downplaying your own strengths and talents, but about finding the courage to own them, to use them to make a positive impact, and to inspire others to do the same. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is having the confidence and self-belief to go after your dreams, no matter what anyone else might say. And that, my friends, is the kind of advice that's worth its weight in gold. 12. Following your heart over your mind. The age-old battle between the heart and the mind. It's the stuff of epic love stories, gut-wrenching tragedies, and the occasional self-help book that promises to unlock the secrets of the universe. And let me tell you, my friends, when it comes to the age-old advice of following your heart, it's a piece of wisdom that's about as reliable as a politician's campaign promise. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you heard someone say, "You know, the real reason I'm not where I want to be in life is because I listened to my head instead of my heart. If only I had thrown caution to the wind and followed my feelings, I'd be living in a mansion on a private island, sipping mojitos and basking in the glory of my dreams come true." Exactly. It's the kind of advice that sounds great in theory, like a surefire way to live a life of passion and authenticity, free from the shackles of logic and reason. But when you really dig into it, it's about as useful as a politician's campaign promise, all flash and no substance. Because let's be real, the world is a messy, complicated place, and sometimes the heart can lead us down a path that's more akin to a tangled jungle than a smooth, well-paved road. Whether it's chasing after a romantic partner who's clearly not good for us, quitting our stable job to pursue a dream that's more fantasy than reality, or investing our life savings in the latest get-rich-quick scheme, the heart can be a fickle and unreliable guide, leading us straight into the jaws of disaster. And let's not forget the fact that the truly inspiring people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly chasing after their wildest dreams, heedless of the risks and consequences, but the ones who have the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are in alignment with their true nature and their long-term goals. But what about the Stoics? Didn't they preach the virtues of reason and self-control? And you'd be absolutely right. As the ancient Indian philosopher Bhagavad Gita once said, "It is better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live in imitation of somebody else's life with perfection." But here's the thing. When it comes to navigating the ups and downs of life, the Stoics might just have a thing or two to teach us about the importance of striking a balance between the heart and the mind. After all, as the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu once observed, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And you know what? That's the kind of mindset we should be cultivating when it comes to our decision-making process. Because let's face it, the truly successful people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly flying by the seat of their pants, but the ones who have the wisdom and foresight to weigh the pros and cons, to consider the long-term consequences of their actions, and to make decisions that are grounded in reason and logic. So, what's the secret to finding the right balance between the heart and the mind? It's all about learning to listen to both, and to trust that the path forward will reveal itself in due time. Because let's be honest, the people who are truly inspiring aren't the ones who are constantly chasing after their wildest dreams, heedless of the risks and consequences, but the ones who have the courage to step back, take a deep breath, and make decisions that are rooted in a clear-eyed understanding of their own strengths, weaknesses, and long-term goals. Think about it. When you're around someone who's constantly making impulsive decisions based on their emotions, it can be exhausting, right? But when you're with someone who's thoughtful and deliberate in their approach, who's willing to weigh the pros and cons and make decisions that are in alignment with their values and priorities, it's like a breath of fresh air. Because at the end of the day, what we really want is to be with people who are grounded, resilient, and able to navigate the ups and downs of life with a steady hand and a clear mind. As the ancient Indian philosopher Bhagavad Gita once said, "Yoga is the journey of the self, through the self to the self." And you know what? That's the kind of perspective we should be bringing to our decision-making process. Because let's face it, the truly successful people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly chasing after their wildest dreams, heedless of the risks and consequences, but the ones who have the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are in alignment with their true nature and their long-term goals. So, the next time you're tempted to buy into the myth of following your heart, remember that the true path to fulfillment and happiness isn't about blindly chasing after your emotions, but about finding the courage to listen to both your heart and your mind, and to trust that the right path will reveal itself in due time. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is having the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are grounded in reason, logic, and a deep understanding of who you truly are. 13. Aspire to be a good person. The age-old conundrum. Should we strive to be the kind of person who's universally adored, or should we embrace our inner rebel and let our freak flag fly? It's a question that's been debated by philosophers, self-help gurus, and the rest of us mere mortals for as long as anyone can remember. And let me tell you, my friends, when it comes to the advice of aspiring to be a good person, it's a piece of wisdom that's about as reliable as a chocolate teapot. Sure, it might look nice, but when the heat's on and you're trying to brew up a steaming cup of Earl Grey, you're going to be sorely disappointed. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you heard someone say, "You know, the real reason I'm not where I want to be in life is because I'm just too darn virtuous. If only I could throw caution to the wind and embrace my inner scoundrel, would be living the high life surrounded by adoring fans and swimming in a sea of riches." Exactly. It's the kind of advice that sounds great in theory, like a surefire way to live a life of moral superiority and unwavering righteousness. But when you really dig into it, it's about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Sure, it might keep the bugs out, but when the waves start crashing and the water starts pouring in, you're going to wish you had something a little more substantial to keep you afloat. Because let's be real, the world is a messy, complicated place, And sometimes, the path to true fulfillment and happiness isn't about being the perfect angelic being that everyone adores. Whether it's standing up for our beliefs in the face of adversity, embracing our quirks and eccentricities, or simply refusing to conform to the expectations of others, the truly inspiring people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly trying to be good, but the ones who have the courage to be true to themselves, no matter the cost. They're the ones who understand that true strength and resilience come not from trying to be everything to everyone, but from having the self-awareness and self-acceptance to be unapologetically themselves. But what about the Stoics? Didn't they preach the virtues of virtue and moral character? And you'd be absolutely right. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu once said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But here's the thing. When it comes to navigating the ups and downs of life, the Stoics might just have a thing or two to teach us about the importance of finding the right balance between being good and being true to ourselves. After all, as the ancient Indian philosopher Bhagavad Gita once observed, it is better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live an imitation of somebody else's life with perfection. And you know what? That's the kind of mindset we should be cultivating when it comes to our personal growth and development. Because let's face it, the truly successful people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly trying to be the perfect angelic beings that everyone adores, but the ones who have the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are in alignment with their true nature and their long-term goals. So what's the secret to finding the right balance between being good and being true to ourselves? It's all about learning to listen to our own inner voice and to trust that the path forward will reveal itself in due time. Because let's be honest, the people who are truly inspiring aren't the ones who are constantly trying to conform to the expectations of others, but the ones who have the courage to step back, take a deep breath, and make decisions that are rooted in a clear-eyed understanding of their own strengths, weaknesses, and long-term priorities. Think about it. When you're around someone who's constantly trying to be the perfect angelic being that everyone adores, it can be exhausting, right? But when you're with someone who's authentic, genuine, and unafraid to embrace their quirks and eccentricities, it's like a breath of fresh air. Because at the end of the day, what we really want is to be with people who are grounded, resilient, and able to navigate the ups and downs of life with a steady hand and a clear mind. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Confucius once said, "The superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions." And you know what? That's the kind of perspective we should be bringing to our personal growth and development. Because let's face it, the truly successful people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly trying to be the perfect angelic beings that everyone adores, but the ones who have the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are in alignment with their true nature and their long-term goals. So, the next time you're tempted to buy into the myth of aspiring to be a good person, remember that the true path to fulfillment and happiness isn't about blindly conforming to the expectations of others, but about finding the courage to listen to our own inner voice and to trust that the right path will reveal itself in due time. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is having the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are grounded in reason, logic, and a deep understanding of who we truly are. 14. You should have loads of friends. The age-old pursuit of popularity, the holy grail of social status, the key to unlocking a life of endless parties, adoring fans, and more Instagram followers than you can shake a selfie stick at. It's the kind of advice that's been drilled into our heads since the moment we could toddle our way through the schoolyard, a surefire way to ensure that we'll never have to eat lunch alone or spend a Friday night binge-watching Netflix in our pajamas. But let me tell you, my friends, when it comes to the advice of, you should have loads of friends, it's a piece of wisdom that's about as reliable as a politician's campaign promise, all flash and no substance. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you heard someone say, "You know, the real reason I'm not where I want to be in life is because I just don't have enough friends. If only I could throw caution to the wind and become the life of the party, be living the high life, surrounded by a veritable army of adoring fans and swimming in a sea of social media likes. Exactly. It's the kind of advice that sounds great in theory, like a surefire way to live a life of endless social connections and never-ending popularity. But when you really dig into it, it's about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Sure, it might keep the bugs out, but when the waves start crashing and the water starts pouring in, you're going to wish you had something a little more substantial to keep you afloat. Because let's be real, the world is a messy, complicated place, and sometimes the path to true fulfillment and happiness isn't about being the most popular kid on the block, but about cultivating a few deep, meaningful relationships that truly enrich our lives. Whether it's standing up for our beliefs in the face of adversity, embracing our quirks and eccentricities, or simply refusing to conform to the expectations of others, the truly inspiring people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly trying to be the life of the party, but the ones who have the courage to be true to themselves, no matter the cost. And let's not forget the fact that the truly successful people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly chasing after the approval of others, but the ones who have the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are in alignment with their true nature and their long-term goals. But what about the Stoics? Didn't they preach the virtues of self-sufficiency and independence? And you'd be absolutely right. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Confucius once said, "The superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions." But here's the thing. When it comes to navigating the ups and downs of life, the Stoics might just have a thing or two to teach us about the importance of finding the right balance between being a social butterfly and being true to ourselves. After all, as the ancient Indian philosopher Bhagavad Gita once observed, "It is better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live in imitation of somebody else's life with perfection." And you know what? That's the kind of mindset we should be cultivating when it comes to our personal relationships. Because let's face it, the truly successful people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly trying to be the center of attention, but the ones who have the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are in alignment with their true nature and their long-term goals. So what's the secret to finding the right balance between being a social butterfly and being true to ourselves? It's all about learning to listen to our own inner voice and to trust that the path forward will reveal itself in due time. Because let's be honest, the people who are truly inspiring aren't the ones who are constantly trying to conform to the expectations of others, but the ones who have the courage to step back, take a deep breath, and make decisions that are rooted in a clear-eyed understanding of their own strengths, weaknesses, and long-term priorities. Think about it. When you're around someone who's constantly trying to be the life of the party, it can be exhausting, right? But when you're with someone who's authentic, genuine, and unafraid to embrace their quirks and eccentricities, it's like a breath of fresh air. Because at the end of the day, what we really want is to be with people who are grounded, resilient, and able to navigate the ups and downs of life with a steady hand and a clear mind. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi once said, "The perfect man uses his mind like a mirror. It grasps nothing. It refuses nothing. It receives, but does not keep." And you know what? That's the kind of perspective we should be bringing to our personal relationships. Because let's face it, the truly successful people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly trying to be the center of attention, but the ones who have the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are in alignment with their true nature and their long-term goals. So the next time you're tempted to buy into the myth of "you should have loads of friends," remember that the true path to fulfillment and happiness isn't about blindly conforming to the expectations of others, but about finding the courage to listen to our own inner voice and to trust that the right path will reveal itself in due time. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is having the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are grounded in reason, logic, and a deep understanding of who we truly are. And that, my friends, is the kind of advice that's worth its weight in gold. 15. Good days equal to a good life. the holy grail of human existence, the key to unlocking a life of endless sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. It's the kind of advice that's been drilled into our heads since the moment we could toddle our way through the schoolyard. A surefire way to ensure that we'll never have to face the messy, complicated realities of the real world. But let me tell you, my friends, when it comes to the advice of good days equal a good life, it's a piece of wisdom that's about as reliable as a politician's campaign promise. All flash and no substance. I mean, think about it. When was the last time you heard someone say, "You know, the real reason I'm not where I want to be in life is because I just don't have enough good days. If only I could throw caution to the wind and bask in the glow of perpetual positivity, would be living the high life, surrounded by a veritable army of adoring fans and swimming in a sea of Instagram likes." Exactly. It's the kind of advice that sounds great in theory, like a surefire way to live a life of endless happiness and unbridled joy. But when you really dig into it, it's about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. Sure, it might keep the bugs out, but when the waves start crashing and the water starts pouring in, you're going to wish you had something a little more substantial to keep you afloat. Because let's be real, the world is a messy, complicated place, and sometimes the path to true fulfillment and happiness isn't about chasing after a never-ending stream of good days, but about embracing the full spectrum of human experience, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Whether it's standing up for our beliefs in the face of adversity, weathering the storms of life's inevitable challenges, or simply refusing to conform to the expectations of others, the truly inspiring people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly trying to maintain a veneer of perpetual positivity, but the ones who have the courage to be true to themselves, no matter the cost. And let's not forget the fact that the truly successful people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly chasing after the approval of others, but the ones who have the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are in alignment with their true nature and their long-term goals. But what about the Stoics? Didn't they preach the virtues of equanimity and emotional resilience? And you'd be absolutely right. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." But here's the thing. When it comes to navigating the ups and downs of life, the Stoics might just have a thing or two to teach us about the importance of finding the right balance between chasing after perpetual happiness and embracing the full range of human experience. After all, as the ancient Indian philosopher Bhagavad Gita once observed, "It is better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live an imitation of somebody else's life with perfection." And you know what? That's the kind of mindset we should be cultivating when it comes to our personal growth and development. Because let's face it, the truly successful people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly trying to maintain a facade of perpetual positivity, but the ones who have the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are in alignment with their true nature and their long-term goals. So, what's the secret to finding the right balance between chasing after good days and embracing the full spectrum of human experience? It's all about learning to listen to our own inner voice and to trust that the path forward will reveal itself in due time. Because let's be honest, the people who are truly inspiring aren't the ones who are constantly trying to conform to the expectations of others, but the ones who have the courage to step back, take a deep breath, and make decisions that are rooted in a clear-eyed understanding of their own strengths, weaknesses, and long-term priorities. Think about it. When you're around someone who's constantly trying to maintain a veneer of perpetual positivity, it can be exhausting, right? But when you're with someone who's authentic, genuine, and unafraid to embrace the full range of human emotions, it's like a breath of fresh air. Because at the end of the day, what we really want is to be with people who are grounded, resilient, and able to navigate the ups and downs of life with a steady hand and a clear mind. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Zhuangzi once said, "The perfect man uses his mind like a mirror. It grasps nothing, it refuses nothing. It receives, but does not keep." And you know what? That's the kind of perspective we should be bringing to our personal growth and development. Because let's face it, the truly successful people in this world aren't the ones who are constantly trying to maintain a facade of perpetual happiness, but the ones who have the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are in alignment with their true nature and their long-term goals. So the next time you're tempted to buy into the myth of good days equal a good life, remember that the true path to fulfillment and happiness isn't about blindly chasing after perpetual positivity, but about finding the courage to listen to our own inner voice and to trust that the right path will reveal itself in due time. Because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is having the wisdom and self-awareness to make decisions that are grounded in reason, logic, and a deep understanding of who we truly are. And that, my friends, is the kind of advice that's worth its weight in gold.